Could you tell us how you're preparing for this return to work in September?
Parle bien là uniquement du fonctionnement.
Well, you're only talking about the way the institutions are going to operate, if I've understood your question properly, and in particular the European Commission. The European Commission has in its mind a plan for the gradual reopening of the offices of the Commission of the European Union, which will all depend on the developments in the various sites and the countries that we operate in, because of course we have our headquarters here in Brussels, but we also have institutions in Luxembourg, the JRC in Italy. We have various institutions spread across the EU. Reopening the offices will depend on how many people can actually physically be present. And we will, of course, be planning for this return to work as the situation develops. Regarding the press room, in particular, we are in contact with others on this subject. We are hoping there will be a gradual reopening. This will all depend on very tightly controlled health checks. There will be a gradual increase in the number of people returning to work in the Berlaymont, of course. We have to be very pragmatic, and so for the moment, on the basis of the information that has been available over the last few weeks, we're planning for a reopening of the press room, partially, from mid-September, but this has to be confirmed. We are currently working on various protocols which would allow for access to the press room in the right conditions, in the right health and hygiene conditions. And we'll be doing this, so opening up gradually with everything in place, both to colleagues from the Commission but also to journalists. But of course, all of this depends to a great extent on how the situation will develop, and a definitive decision on reopening the buildings will only be taken once we get closer to the date in question, and this will all depend on the figures that will be available then. The second thing is that no matter what happens, we want to continue operating with a virtual system in parallel to the reopening of the press room, which will mean that each and every one of you will be able to decide for yourselves on whether you want to be physically present in the press room or whether you would continue attending these meetings virtually, according to the system we're using now.
Voilà ce que je peux dire pour le moment en ce qui concerne.
Now, as to coordination with the other institutions, our press room works in a way which is completely different, as you know, from the press services of other institutions. So there isn't really any coordination. That's simply not possible to coordinate between the Council, the Parliament and the Commission. One thing I can say, because you appear to be interested in this, is that access to the press room, access will be limited, I think, in terms of numbers of people, which should not be a problem for the normal midday briefing, but might possibly be a problem when there are press conferences, because sometimes there will be more than 100 journalists interested, but there will only be 100 seats available. So we'll have to manage fair access to the press room, and that the media, who have many journalists, don't occupy all the seats. And that is something that we're thinking about and indeed discussing with our appropriate partners.